Federal investigators have executed a search warrant at Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan home. They reportedly seized all his personal electronic devices.
Right. Search warrants are a court order, and the prosecutors, when they get any search warrant, have to show probable cause to believe that there will be evidence of a crime at a particular location. Now, Rudy Giuliani is also a lawyer, and that creates more hurdles for the prosecutor because there's protection against attorneys that on behalf of their clients. And so in order to get a search warrant of a lawyer's office, you have to get approval from the highest level, and you also have to show that other means have been ineffective in obtaining this kind of information.
France has arrested 7 fugitive Italian leftist militants after harboring them for decades following their conviction in Italy on terrorism charges. Italy has been fighting for the extradition of dozens of leftist guerrillas who had been given refuge in France after the so-called Years of Lead. The period from the late 1960s to the 1980s saw extreme social and political conflict in Italy. Hundreds of people were murdered in bombings, assassinations and street warfare by rival far-right and far-left factions.
Thousands of Colombian protesters clashed with police across the country Wednesday over a proposal for new or expanded taxes. 40 people were arrested for alleged vandalism, according to the government, and over 40 police officers were injured. Protesters had answered the call from Colombia's biggest unions to hit the streets. In Cali, indigenous protesters tried to bring down a statue of Conquistador Sebastián de Belalcázar and faced off with police in riot gear before being driven away by tear gas. Right-wing President Iván Duque's proposal would mean more taxes for individuals and businesses.
Terrorists in Gaza fired rockets toward Israel for the third night in a row on Sunday and early Monday, with the Iron Dome system intercepting 2 of the 5 projectiles. 4 people, including a pregnant woman, were lightly wounded after falling while running to bomb shelters early Monday, medics said. A first projectile was detected by the Israel Defense Forces, which said it only set off red alert sirens in an open area where it evidently fell. A second rocket landed inside Gaza near the security fence. Just after 3 a.m. 3 more rockets were fired, with the Iron Dome system intercepting 2 of them. A third fell inside Gaza, the army said.
So 45 awaiting trial prisoners in a truck, just 2 police officers transporting them to court, stopped by a bakkie with at least 5 armed men.
2 police officers escorting 41 awaiting trial prisoners to court. Sounds like there is a bit of a mismatch there. But the reality is, Sally, even going back to my days as a cop in the 1980s, that is standard practice, because you don't expect policemen taking prisoners to court to be run off the road by AK-47 wielding criminals. So if we are saying as a society that we need to protect our cops that are doing what is a pretty mundane or run-of-the-mill police function, then I think we've got a bigger problem than what we think.
Denmark is doubling down, and the EU's top migration official is expressing concern amid the Danish government's decision to push ahead with reviewing and revoking the residency permits of hundreds of Syrian refugees. In a report released in 2019, the Danish Immigration Service declared parts of war-torn Syria safe to return to. Refugees in Denmark hailing from in and around Damascus, areas controlled by the Assad regime, who do not face direct individual threats, have been ordered to leave. Denmark is the first EU country to implement such a move, following the election of staunch anti-immigration Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Pressure is mounting from both EU lawmakers and civil society, with protests being held outside the Danish parliament last week, urging the government to reverse the policy.
Emotional scenes at the Garandi family home. Their son, 17-year-old Sina, is one of 5 people killed during anti-government protests in Chad on Tuesday. His family says he was only a spectator watching a confrontation between demonstrators and security forces in the capital, N'Djamena. The crackdown on demonstrators has prompted international condemnation and calls for investigations.
Although the protest organizers say they will keep up the demonstrations, Tuesday's crackdown by the military has forced protesters off the streets. The city appears to be calm for now, with most shops and markets open. But the excessive use of force has drawn criticism from Chad's allies, including France.
Well, the British Prime Minister should have been taking a victory lap over the UK's successful vaccine rollout. Instead, Boris Johnson is engulfed in a growing political crisis. Grilled a short time ago in Parliament over who actually paid for refurbishing his Downing Street home. The issue has sparked a formal investigation by Britain's political spending watchdog. The UK's Electoral Commission says there are, quote, reasonable grounds to suspect that an offence or offences may have occurred.
Now, Indians from the million-strong expat community in the UAE stranded in their homeland during a catastrophic coronavirus surge are swamping private jet operators with requests to whisk them back safely to safety. Now, an estimated 3.5 million Indians live and work in the United Arab Emirates. The latest suspension in flights that came into force Sunday has shut down some 300 commercial flights that operated weekly on one of the world's busiest air corridors. The sudden move has stranded members of long-settled, wealthy families who travel to India for holidays, work, or on medical emergencies. Laborers on short-term contracts have also been affected. Many are now in panic mode as cases in India skyrocket.